Fozzy frontman and wrestling legend Chris Jericho joining us this evening on Loudwire Nights. And it's been a minute since we've talked since COVID hit. So,
Mm.
how have you been? I mean, that's such a loaded question. I feel like you're this machine, unstoppable workaholic. I've seen it in action. But even you must have been like somewhat affected as a human during COVID. Like, what really got to you?
I mean, I think just not being able to go on the road, that's such a part of my life since I was 19 years old. And it was great to be home with my family and hang out and have all that time together, but not being on the road and traveling around, not just the States, but traveling around the world like we have been both in Fozzy and in wrestling with AEW. That was really, really strange for me. And we did our whole year out of Jacksonville, and I live in Tampa, so there was some traveling involved, but it was the same place every week, and it got to be a routine, and I never want to experience that again because nothing about what I do is a routine. So the pros were being at home with my family. That was great. The big con though was being at home constantly in the same city, in the same place, and not being able to go travel and see people and perform in front of fans. I mean, we were doing 6 months with AEW in an empty arena, which was completely insane when you think about it. But that was, like I said, that was a real shock to be doing all these things with no fans and no travel and no real interaction.
Yeah. And I've seen what it's like to just be somewhere with you at an airport on one occasion when we did that thing back in the day. And
Right.
just everybody just comes to you. You're like a magnet, people everywhere. So yeah, I can imagine that would be really weird for someone like you.
It was, and like I said, for example, for wrestling, so much of what you do depends on the live reaction from the crowd, that energy and that electricity that you get from the people that are there. So when we were performing in front of nobody, that whole kind of the third person in the ring, I guess that energy was gone, and that was the strangest thing, uh, because it really affected my performances. And of course, Fozzy wise, there was nothing. We did a couple shows last year, which were fun, but just from a timing standpoint, there was a lot of hassle on that. Even just how dare you do a show and you are the most evil person in the world, and it's just like, I mean, you couldn't win either way. So now, thankfully, over the last month, every single band in the world has announced a tour in the fall, including us. This is the tour that we had booked. I think it was March of last year that kept getting March of 2020, or maybe it was April. It kept getting postponed and postponed and postponed. So now we're finally going out in September and October. And it's been a long time coming. And then thankfully we had our tour kind of booked and put on sale. So all of these tickets that we sold a year ago, most people didn't ask for refunds. They just said, well, we'll wait. So thankfully, even though all these other bands are going out on tour, we kind of have our tickets sold and our shows are sold. So we're kind of lucky on that aspect because it's going to be just a bottleneck of everybody going out, which is great, but people are going to really have to start picking and choosing who they want to see.
Yeah, you can get those Fozzy Save the World dates, loudwire.com. And along those lines, I'll ask you, what's more rewarding? Hearing a venue or maybe a festival crowd, I know you have some festival dates coming up as well, hearing those people sing your songs back at you, or being at an AEW event and just having those fans sing those songs back at you. That's
Well, I
like
mean,
both worlds coming together.
yeah, it was cool because that was very organic. And that happened right before the pandemic started on the Jericho cruise, on the second Jericho cruise that we had in January of 2020, which it was only a year and a half ago, but it seems like, 15 years ago because it was right before the pandemic started. And just, you always look for organic, participation from crowds, whether it's wrestling or music, or if you're a comedian or whatever, you want people to respond and you don't want to have to force them to do it. And they started singing Judas on the cruise, and then that transferred over into the arenas. So for about a month, every time I came to the ring, the whole crowd was singing Judas. And then suddenly there's no crowds for 6 months. So I was like, I hope people remember what to do and how to respond, but you don't know because you don't want to shove it down their throats because they started doing it on their own. It's not like we went, okay, 3, 2, 1, sing Judas. And so when they came back, they remembered, which was such a like a relief. And then in earnest, we had our first sellout crowd a couple weeks ago in Jacksonville with 5,000 people, and they were just belting it out. And once again, this has been in Jacksonville week in, week out. We can't wait to go back on the road. July 7th, we have Miami, and then we go to Texas, and then we go to Charlotte. All of these people have been waiting to sing this song because it's part of the show now and part of my whole presentation. So it's so cool to hear that because, like you said, it is a kind of a crossing of the two worlds, but in the best possible way. And as a result, I think it's only going to be a matter of probably 6 months or so before Judas actually goes gold, the single, which in this day and age,
Congratulations.
because they haven't switched gold records, you still have to sell 500,000 either singles or streams, which they now, 100 million streams is like 1,000 sales or whatever the hell it is. But because this song is so popular on national TV and in all these arenas every week, it's still doing really good numbers. And like I said, it's probably going to go gold within the next 6 months to a year, which is huge for us.
Trevor Noah, I don't know if you know who he is, but he did this awesome piece on streams and he broke down all the numbers. It was fascinating. He just did it about a week ago. But going back to the crowd and singing Judas, I've seen that also in person. I feel like it's just a couple weeks before they start singing back crazy, right, to you. So Fozzy have a new song. It's called Sane. And like you said, Judas, the album was so huge. Judas, the single, was so massive for the band, the biggest of your career so far, right? So how do you think Sane is going to, like, I don't know if top that is a word, but fill those footsteps? What's your favorite part about the song? What do you love about it?
Well, it's interesting. The same thing with Sane happened as what happened with Judas, where I had to not go to war with anybody, but I really had to take a stand that this is the single. The Judas was a debate at first. Should this be the first single? And I like, it's one of the things that I kind of am good at. Like, this has to be the single. This has to be the first song on the record. It's the first song in the live set. It's the first single. And they went with my instincts and I was correct. Now, Judas came out of the gate. It was an anomaly right off the bat. It did 1 million views a week on YouTube a week for the first 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, we were at 5 million views. Sane did 1 million views in less than 3 weeks. So it's doing great. It's not at that Judas level. And whatever it was about Judas, right place, right time, maybe it was the fact that it was the new Fozzy song that nobody had heard in 3 years or so. We hadn't had a song in a while. But Sane has come out of the gate. It's second only to Judas. And it's the most added song on the radio in Fozzy's history. So that's really, really cool. And you can see, I think in the first week, we got like 14 ads. And out of those 14, 6 of the top 10 radio markets had added us, which had never really happened before. So I think programmers really decided this is the song. And once again, I had to really put my opinion in that this is the single. People want a rock and roll song from us right out of the gate, because we got a lot of great songs on this record, but this is the one that's just like, this is the riff and this is the banger. And combine that with the video we did on the roller coaster, which had never been done before, and you've got something very special and very unique. So I think that next to Judas, this has the potential to be our biggest song and maybe even chart higher than Judas did. I think Judas made it to number 5 on the charts, and
so close.
We think this could have the potential to get that elusive, number 1. That's what we're going for. That's the goal. A top 10 is great, but number 1 is the mission. And so far out of the gate, it seems to be on pace to do that, hopefully.
You touched on the video. So it was shot in the world's biggest wooden roller coaster. I have so many questions after watching that video. One being, I thought that like he was going to hold the guitar the whole time. I'm glad he didn't. But I'm curious if you were hearing the song, you were singing along to it. Was it being played? I'm hoping that was a GoPro situation and not some poor cameraman.
Yeah, no. It'd be shaking too much. So I was in the front of the car, and right in front of me was the camera that was locked down, in position on the very front facing me. And then we also had like a speaker, which was playing the song. Now, we did the run 6 times, right? And like you said, this is the longest wooden roller coaster in the world. Now, a wooden roller coaster is a lot more shaky and I guess you'd say more physical than a normal than a other roller coaster that would be on whatever, I guess the opposite of wood, but plastic, whatever the hell they make it out of. So it was really kind of moving us around and really shaking it. So we did 6 runs on that, and the first one was a technical difficulty. And then there was another one where the music didn't play. So once you start rolling, you can't stop it. Hey, stop, rewind. You're going through this whole 2.5-minute thing. So we did it 6 times. 2 of them we couldn't use at all. All right. So we did 4 takes that we used in that video. And one of them we filmed at double time. So that means the song is sped up to 2 minutes and not 4. So the whole time I'm looking at the camera and I got to lip sync with the music. And then the one take I have to go double time. So crazy, crazy, the only way times like these I don't want to be crazy, crazy, then face the other day. So, and I'm also trying to hold on as this thing is shaking me about, and also not trying to think about getting nauseous. And if you look really closely, one of our guitar players, Billy Gray, he's only in half of it because he only could do 4 out of the 6. And Rich was really sick. And like after the 6th one, in about an hour and a half, I was like, we're done. Like, this is it. The human body is not made to do a roller coaster 6 times in a row. So we were all feeling it later that night, and some of the guys were sick or whatever, but we knew that we had to do it because all that mattered was the end result. And that's what we got of this really crazy, unique video that no one has ever done before. And there's a reason no one's ever done before, because it was really, really hard to do.
Because no one wants to vomit nonstop after a video shoot. That's why.
Well, and that's the thing. And like poor Billy, you know, he just couldn't do it. And it was like, dude, like, I get it, man. Like, let's structure it. You know, he's kind of behind me, so you don't see him a lot anyways. But if you look really closely, you'll see, where did Billy go? It's because he could only do 4 of the 6, and out of those 4 we were only able to use 2. So it was one of those things. Like, I'm not a roller coaster guy. I told you, this was Rich Ward's idea. This is not my idea. And I said, Rich, I am not a roller coaster guy, but I'm the front man of the band, and I'm the one you see. I gotta do it. Like, don't worry about it. There's no excuse. You have to get this done. And that's what I did. I just put it out of my head until that 6th one was finished. And I said to Rich, that's it. I'm done. I can't do anymore. And you're just like, oh my gosh.
It seems like it would have been Rich's idea, because he was having way too much fun behind you. Like, every time you look at his face, I'm like crazy.
Well, he was, but he was also really sick too. In that last take, he was really sick. The last take was the double time one. And that's when, if you watch, you see it's kind of dreamy. And again, it goes a little bit like in slow motion. The reason for that is we filmed it at double speed, and then you play it back at normal speed. It's a trick we used on Judas as well. The Judas video, you can see it's the same type of thing, except for we did it opposite. We slowed it down so it moves really fast. That's how you do that. It's camera tricks.
Very cool. So we haven't heard too much about album number 8. Assuming it's coming. We know you guys have been working. What can you tell us about sound, where you are within the process, how you've been working on the record?
Well, we're done. We called it Chinese Fozzocracy for a while, because we started working on this. I think it was like maybe March of 2019 is when the first song was recorded. That was Nowhere to Run. And so we're finished. It's all done. There's 12 songs. It's mixed. It's mastered. We've got everything all planned for it. It's just a matter of when do we release it now, you know? And I think that we're on Sony Music, and their the structure of how they release albums material is different, to where they're focusing on singles. So Nowhere to Run came out a year and a half ago. And then Sane came out, and I think the idea is in another 3-4 months, when Sane kind of peaks, to put out another single and keep going for that. And then I think the record will come out when I think everything is not back to normal, but I think we didn't want to put out a record when we couldn't tour on it. And now that we're going on tour, I would say that it's probably going to come out very soon, maybe towards the end of the year, maybe the beginning of the year, but it's ready to go. You know, the only thing we have to really work on is the artwork, but we have the title in mind and all that other stuff. But all 12 songs are finished, mixed, mastered, and done. which
I
is
know
great.
it's weird to be like, what can you tell us about the sound? Because how do you describe sound or the music? But what can you tell us
Oh, the
about
sound.
maybe?
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically what we've done is we really kind of hit our stride on the last two records as to what Fozzy is as a band. Do You Want to Start a War was the beginning of that. And then Judas really kind of focused in on like, okay, this is our band. And we had, you know, three legit big hits. We had two top tens and another and Burn Me Out that went top 20. And we think this album probably has 4 or 5 songs that can do that. So it's kind of a continuation of the sound of Judas, you know, just kind of the next step of that. Sane is a really great example of what the record sounds like, and then Nowhere to Run as well. That's on the album too. So those two songs, Sane is a little heavier, Nowhere to Run is a little bit more. I wouldn't say maybe more hooky, maybe a little bit more radio friendly. I don't even know what you'd say because Sane is very radio friendly as well. All of these songs you can hear on the radio. It's almost like we have another Hysteria where you could release 8 singles from this album if you wanted to. So that's kind of the direction of it. It's like Judas in the next step in the evolution of Fozzy. But if you like the Judas record, then you really like this new record as well.
Very, very exciting. Let's talk a little bit about some of your other projects, some of the other stuff you have going on. For example, I saw that the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea is happening in 2021 in October. I mean, you can't compare it because it's its own thing. It's got its wrestling angle and you're there. But I've noticed that some of the other kind of rock and metal cruises, sales-wise, a little slower than normal. Obviously, you feel confident getting on a cruise ship or you wouldn't be moving forward. Do you feel other people are as confident as you are? What kind of reaction are you getting to?
Well, it's interesting because we sold this cruise out about 2 weeks after the last one, which was February of 2020. Then when it was supposed to be February of 2021 that it went out, and then obviously we had to postpone that, and so you have to put all the tickets back on sale again. But then we sold it out again, and then everyone was excited to go in the fall. And now there's some, you know, restrictions of like, you must be vaccinated or this, that, and other thing. So then some people pulled out because of that. Right. So it's kind of a work in progress to where I think cruise ships in general, the cruise lines, they're losing so much money being in port, like being docked. I think it's like $100 million a month.
What?
That they're just trying anything to get cruises back on the water, right? So it's kind of almost like a strange transitional time. Like, let's just get out there and have some fun. And I'm not concerned at all. I'm ready to go. And thankfully, so is everybody that's on the Rock and Wrestling Rager. So the people that decided they didn't want to come on this voyage, then other people are buying the cabins and everyone's just like, we want to go. So I think, like I said, I think it's one of those things, Tony, much like touring, is that once one band goes out, then every band goes out. Like, I was really surprised that when Motley Crue and Def Leppard canceled the stadium tour, that then Guns N' Roses is doing a stadium tour and Green Day is doing the stadium tour. I was like, I thought that stadiums might be off limits. But no, they're going. People are going out. They want to do stuff. And I think it's the same with the cruise, that you'll get people that are going to stay home for the next 5 years. They'll probably never want to go to a gig or whatever. And then there's other people like, book me on every gig, every cruise, every possible thing that I can do because I've been at home for a year and I'm sick of it. So we are appealing to those people for the cruise. And we're really excited. It's a great lineup. And the second cruise, the first one, once again, the first one, you're always doing your best and it was awesome. But the second one was really like, okay, now we got it. And the third one will be the next extension of that. So I'm very, very excited about it.
I kind of want to ask you this, and I kind of feel like I know the answer. You talked about Motley Crue, the stadium tour being pushed back, and I'm thinking it's perhaps for the best that it got pushed back. I'm sure you saw Vince Neil's first.
I did.
And I know that it was literally almost a year ago to this day that you were defending Vince Neil for something very similar. And you were saying, you know, by the time the stadium tour rolls around, and I know you very much connect to him and Motley Crue, you said by the time the stadium tour rolls around, he's going to be ready to go. He's going to be fit. He's going to hopefully take some voice lessons, whatever. Yeah. And here we are a year later, and that hasn't really.
It's disappointing because, like, I think everyone is pulling for Vince and they're pulling for Motley Crue. Like, and it's going to be tough doing that tour because I mean, Joan Jett, I don't know if you've seen her recently. She's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And Bret Michaels, I was just talking about Poison the other day. They're going to steal the show. Like, you better watch out for Poison because Bret Michaels is the best frontman out of all of those bands. And then Def Leppard's Def Leppard. They do what they do. And Motley Crue, like, they're going to have to really step it up. And I'm disappointed to see Vince the way he is, because I think if he lost like some weight and did some training and came out there and was like in some semblance of shape, A, his voice will sound better just from that alone. And B, people would go, holy shit, did you see Vince Neil? He looks great. And it's like, I think if he really wants to do it, he could do it, but I don't know if he does. And that's the thing. And it's up to him. And either way, it's Motley Crue. People are going to go and they're going to, they're going to love it. But to me as a performer, I would take that as a challenge. I've got 1 year. Let's do this. Like it's been long enough. Let's do this for real. Let me call Phil Collin and Duff McKagan and other rock guys that have got themselves into great shape. How did you do it? Yeah. And really follow along. Not, it's great to have dietitians and stuff, but I would call Duff McKagan a guy who's in wicked shape because his pancreas blew up and he almost died. That's what I would start doing. Let me start thinking how these other rock guys that we partied with for years, and now they're super physical and they're the same age as me and the same mindset of being a rock and roll guy. How do you do it? I think he could do it, but he has to want it. And I think as a fan, it would be one of the greatest feel-good stories, no pun intended, in rock and roll history if Vince came out there and just looked like a killer and was like, all right, mother effers, I did it,
Agreed. Speaking of Duff McKagan, does he pop on your podcast every Friday to tell a joke? Is that an every Friday occurrence?
The Duff McKagan joke of the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are they funny? Usually?
Well, they're hilarious, but they're ridiculous. They're groaners. Yeah, we started this about 4 years ago because he and I found out he has an affinity for bad jokes. And so I would tell him one and he would tell me one. And we happened to be in Winnipeg together. I was doing a show there and Guns N' Roses had a show and we were staying in the same hotel. We didn't even know about it. It was one of those things like, what hotel are you in? Oh, I'm in the Fort Garry. So am I. What room? 701. I was like, put your head out your door right now. He was like 4 doors down. I'm in 709. What's up, dude? So we did a podcast together, and then he told a bad joke, and I was like, you should call in a bad joke every week if you want. So 4 years later, every week he calls in a bad joke. They're awful.
Yeah, but, I heard one that he did recently, and you're like, I don't even think I get that joke, but he tries. He said
sometimes I have to get to I couldn't even remember one to tell you right now, but he's just really the best part of all is his delivery too, because he's kind of got that former burnout voice, and sometimes he screws up his own joke and he has to do it again, and it's hilarious. And the fact that here's a legit rock and roll Hall of Famer making sure to call in a joke every single week. You know what I mean?
Amazing. Yeah. I listened to the podcast, the Talk is Jericho podcast you recently had with Billy Corgan, frontman for the Smashing Pumpkins. And I wonder if you see any similarities between what he's doing with NWA or trying to do and what you have done with AEW in terms of establishing the brand.
Well, yeah. And look, here's the most recent Duff joke of the week. Just, I went to the doctor and said, I broke my leg in 12 places. The doctor said, you should stop going to those 12 places.
Oh my God. They're so bad. They're so bad. I like a bad joke too, though. It's cool.
Yeah. So Billy Corgan is the one guy, and to a certain extent, Andy Williams from Every Time I Die, who's in AEW as well. We've done a really good job of kind of making it in both fields, both in music and wrestling. And Billy, much like me with Fozzy, when he first started, promoting wrestling, people were like, oh, whatever, Corgan's promoting, he's in wrestling now. To now he's legit. And people are like, Billy Corgan's show is pretty cool. He's done a great job of building something unique here. And it's not just a novelty. It's like Corgan does this and Corgan does that. And it's the same thing with Jericho. and like I said, with Andy Williams as well. And it's really cool what Billy's accomplished, because much like me, he didn't give a damn what the haters, quote unquote, said. He just went and did it and made it great. And now it's just like, yeah, Corgan's in wrestling, and Corgan's in the Pumpkins, and Jericho's in AEW, and Sane is killing it on radio. And it's just what they do. And why not? I mean, Justin Timberlake is an actor, and he goes on the road and sells out shows for his musical career. I think people are more, if you let people know that you are very committed to it and it's not just a novelty, people will then respect that. It takes a while to convince them, because there are a lot of celebrity musicians, or, you know, celebrity guys that get into wrestling for a week just to give it a try. And if you let people know this is the real deal, they will respond and respect you for that.
All right. On that note, well, I guess we'll keep our ears peeled for news on album number 8 from Fozzy. Yes. Exciting stuff. We've been playing Sane on Loudwire Nights. We'll continue to do so. Bunch of tour dates in the books for Fozzy. You can get those loudwire.com. The cruise is on. You know how to find it if you'd like to. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate it.
Awesome talking to you, Toni.